This is the original esport racing game. This is iRacing.
Last season gave us a new first-time champion in Rob Olenek and plenty of reasons to feel good. But this is not a car in which anyone can rest on their laurels if they hope for success. Constant practice, preparation, and pressure will need to be applied if Rob wants crown number 2. Appropriately for this historic race car, round 1 takes place on the historic version of them all. We'll see who gets to claim victory on the fast straights of France as we get ready to watch the opening round of the Lotus 49 Grand Prix Legend Series. And you'll see it all live here on the Global SimRacing channel and the iRacing Esports Network. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and with me in the booth is Stefan Schlacher. Behind the scenes is our director, the Dr. Amjad Yaman, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. Steph, LeMans is happening in real life, so any of our sports car fans know the deal, but for our open wheel crowd, give us the rundown on this place.
Yeah, exactly, Joe. While the Toyota TS050s have taken the green flag half an hour ago in real life Le Mans, these Lotus 49Bs will take the historic route of the Circuit de Vanguard du Mans. That means no chicanes down Une d'Hier, which casually gives us a full throttle stretch of about 5.6 kilometers or 3.5 miles. The track in total is 8.43 miles and 85% of that is flat out. 31 turns are located around Le Mans, and the last time this layout was used was in 1989, a race won by the Mercedes Sauber C9, some 5 laps ahead of the rest of the field, which I'm pretty sure we won't see happening in this race. The biggest challenge for these guys will be the cambered public roads, which are designed in this way to get rid of the water quicker. But let's take you now aboard a lap around this place and show you what else these drivers must face today in our GSRC lap guide.
Alright, we're in the GSRC Lotus 49, so let's do a lap around Le Mans. On the front stretch, you'll get a fair bit of momentum going, which means the Dunlop curve won't be flat out. Especially with the 49's lack of grip, you gotta try your best to tuck the car over to the right side of the track, which means you might get surprised by drivers sending a sneak attack up the inside into the Dunlop chicane. The tough thing for them will be getting the car both turned in and gunned off the corner quickly. You might be able to get them back accelerating under the Dunlop bridge. But the Chapel rundown is also not able to be taken flat out, so watch your line. In the Forest S's, it's important to try to keep the car tight to the apex. And then, coming off the right-hander, be careful with the gas as there's a big crest ready to send the car looping. Then, it's a short squirt on the power before one of the most important corners of the track. The exit of Tertre Rouge can make or break your lap time. Being confident with your right foot will be critical. The very tricky Mulsanne corner will catch many drivers out with its kinked braking zone. It'll certainly be a balancing act. Not just the car itself, but how much time you can gain braking deeper versus being planted for a good run off the corner. Because once again, we've got a long stretch where every bit of speed counts. Now, in most cars, golf corner and no-name corner mean nothing, but with the 49 bouncing its way along with almost no downforce, they become very tricky. You've got to straighten them out as much as possible and try to avoid going through too wide. Then you've got to set up for Indianapolis, which once again provides an incredible challenge with its kinked entry. Make sure you're able to hold to the right so that you can take as much advantage as possible from the banking on the left-hander. From there, you'll need to switch sides quickly for the best line into Arnage. This is one of the slowest corners on the track, and the wall of the outside provides little room for error as you accelerate. From out of there, the run to the Porsche curves is similar to the run up to Indianapolis. The kinks would be no problem in other vehicles, but in the 49, they're pretty hairy. Especially braking for the Porsche corner. If you stay flat out, the car likes to jump out from under you. As you woe it up, the important thing here is to set up for each subsequent corner. The bridge curves are probably the most dangerous with that big blue wall ready to punish the greedy. Into the karting S's, things really begin to slow down even more. At this point, it's extremely important to stay tucked to the inside because you can get a slowdown penalty for going wide at the left-hander. Once again, Maison Blanche is no problem for modern cars, but requires a lift in the Lotus. Then comes the Ford chicane, in which the first left-right is surprisingly rapid. Just try not to get greedy because you need the car to be stable to slow up for the second half. The curbs are much taller here, but you can get pretty aggressive with them. Just make sure you can get to the power smoothly for the front stretch. And as you cross the line, you've now finished a lap around Le Mans.
There you see a truncated lap here around Le Mans, and we'll see many non-truncated laps as they get to fly down full throttle around many places on this course. Let's take a look at the standings of last season before we get going on the qualifying, though, starting off with the F1 driver standings. And as you can see, we have a new champion. Rob Olenek took advantage of McClaren having to take off and the lack of attendance from Michel Dudignon, and has proven he is the fastest out there for the last season at least. Let's see if we can repeat that feat, though. Gary Teal just behind him in second, Tranqueray third. And then even with missing nearly half the season, Claridge still wound up fourth, that right, in the top 5 in the points, which is no mean feat in this series. Steph, what about the F2 championship? Effectively the amateur championship as they have here.
Amateur, you might think, but these guys did put on a show themselves. Grand Prix, the Aussie, won that championship ahead of Yuhei Kungs, racing out of France, but being a UK driver technically. Colin Coker, the second Australian in that championship. So 2 Australians take home first and third in the championship. And then it was a little bit closer at the very end between Andrew Eng and Hideki Kovista, who did not attempt the last race last season. Only a single point decided it in favor of the American driver Andrew Eng in that for his 4th position. So Andrew Eng, he had a miserable start, but he really did gather up the speed and hoping to continue that into this season.
Now, there's also a little bit of national pride on the line, as the Constructors' Cup is actually the Nations' Cup over here. The U.S. came away with it because of Olenek and Teal contributing a good chunk of points. Even still, Claridge, you can see, brought the UK up to second with a huge number of points. Australia, in the very last round, manages to jump onto the podium. And Finland as well, getting into there in 4th. They traditionally haven't done as well in the Nations Cup in this series. Trangrade, as is usual, is the only one contributing for Norway. What are the race details, though, here today? What are we looking at for round 1, Steph?
Well, as I said, it is round 1 of the 12-week official racing series, the Grand Prix Legends. With the Lotus 49 2-drop weeks, these drivers do get in this private championship. Race distance today, 10 laps, which is gonna be quite interesting because I'm not 100% sure how fast these guys will actually lap those 10 laps here today. Setups, as always, completely open, and the points do pay out all the way down to 25th position.
And as always, you're watching the Lotus 49 Grand Prix Legends series here on the iRacing Esports Network. Make sure when you get the opportunity to head on over to their YouTube page, click subscribe, and then you can get all races over the course of the season in your YouTube feed. Taking a look at qualifying times, which are just now starting to tumble in. No surprises here. Front row is currently Dudillon on the pole and Claridge in second. Claridge isn't expecting to race nearly as much at the start of this season, though he has managed to make it out here today, at least, to try and give a run in. Over Trangrade rounding out those top 3 in the qualifying. So a lot of familiar names here at the start of the season up at the front, Steph.
Yeah, but right now we have to mention one thing. I think we need ACO to step in and BOP Michel Dudignon here, because right now he's 8 full tenths ahead of Mick Claridge, who himself is about 7/10 ahead of Ovid Trangrade. So right now the gaps at the front are extremely wide open.
And important to note that Claridge has actually left the track already, so he's not going to be able to take that second lap. Must not have been happy he had an off somewhere. Just felt he was too slow. Here's our current champion, Rob Olenek, managed to put it in 5th on his first lap. But as you pointed out, even though he's in 5th, 1.7 seconds away from the pole. It is a long lap around here. We're looking at 3.5 minutes to get around. So we watch Rob brake from Mulsanne corner, try to get the power down on his way towards Indianapolis. Nice and smooth to get himself going once again. We do have a few drivers that have yet to take a timed lap yet, and I think most of them must have had an off on the first lap. So it's going to be a little tight on the second one to get it in. I see Bruno, Ravioli, Bell, Emerald, and Cohen have not gotten times in.
One thing we have to mention, we said it already, the configuration, historic configuration, we have that 5.6 kilometers of full throttle and then another about 2.5 kilometers of full throttle down Mulsanne. Or after Mulsanne, rather. So yes, we have those big gaps right now, but don't you worry, that will close in majorly once we get into a race, because we have those 85% of full throttle percentage on this historic layout.
Absolutely. So we'll probably see some passing and repassing down those long straights, but I have to wonder though, Steph, there's the Mulsanne kink heading up the Mulsanne corner. And in the past, we've seen that can be a little shaky going side by side in these cars. If it was you out there, would you risk trying to take it too wide through that little bend in the long stretch, or would you try and get it single file by the time you hit that?
It is rather interesting, Coupe de Unodia, because you have, first of all, as said, that turn, which you're now going to go flat out through, but because of how the road is with the higher middle to dissipate the water quicker on the track, your car is going to get super light, and you want to maximize that line to not spin your tires and lose momentum. And then, as I said, you also have the kink before Mulsanne, and yes, you can take it too wide. It's not the problem. The problem rather is getting your car stopped in time, because I'm gonna guess most guys right now have not had that much practice, or even any practice, while being flat out under draft.
And qualifying just wraps up. Dudignon actually set an even faster lap, so it's nearly a second now to the next car, but it is over, so let's head through the qualifying order. Michel Dudignon on the pole, 0.9 of a second ahead of Mick Claridge. Roman Pawlowski, though, starting P3, followed by Ove Trangarade in in fourth. Rob Olenek keeps it in 5th when all is said and done. Billy Bob Wright will start P6 with Gary Teal in 7th. Hugh Haycox manages to get an 8th place qualifying. Not bad for him. Daniel Sadro will be 9th, and then 10th will be Ian Haycox.
Philippe Urquhart barely misses out on 10th place. He puts his car in 11th. David Rossi will line up beside him in 12th. Steve Hogan and Ryan Garbin are in row 7. Don Good 15th. Grant Patula 16th. Telmo Amarar in 17th. Colin Coker rounds up 18th. The last car to take qualifying lap is Jasmine Beach, and Andres Bruno will round out your top 20 drivers.
Marco Ravioli will be 21st. Johnny Bell starts 22nd. These drivers did not get time in, as was mentioned. Dave Cohen 23rd, and Rob Reynolds starts 24th and last on the field. So we've got a healthy field of 24 cars. The question is, how many will be able to hold on when it counts? We're waiting on Teal to get out there to the grid, and then we can go racing for 10 laps around here. It is classic style with open wheel cars. They've got an open cockpit. There's nothing but a cigar tube wrapped around the driver. And as the engines start to rev, the lights now come up. Green flag is out. And Michel Dudignon gets a very good jump over Mick Claridge, already starting to stretch away. We got a little bit of 3 wide back there for 6th position. Rob Olenek involved in that, but they back out of it. This looks like everybody comes down to the Dunlop chicane, and we've got a little bit of too wide, but otherwise this is looking pretty clean.
Everyone just trying to stay easy on everyone else. Long first gear, so these cars really bogged down for the very first time, not only out of their stalls, but also through Dunlop, as Roman Pawlowski with a little bit of a slide through the forest as they go for the very first time, which is a little bit of a dangerous spot because of the hump in the road they have to manage.
Looks like everybody's getting onto the Mulsanne for the first time now. And we're starting to get a little bit of a gap from the top three on back. Rob Olenek, with all the three wide fighting we saw down through the first corner, has meant he's already a second behind Pawlowski. We expect he should be able to pick that up. You could see the cars fanning out as they work their way over the crest. We've heard some say that you've got to be careful doing that because you can get wheel spin even at 200 miles an hour.
This, as said, because of the crest in the road that you have here in France, as Michel Dudignon lost his lead for a quick time by Mick Pledge. But now, Michel Dudignon once again up ahead in front of Mick Pledge. And I think Mick Pledge, if he wants to, he can take over the lead once again. But no, not he will back out, as does Roman Pawlowski.
Real action you see on screen there for a second, back around Rob Olenek and Ove Trangarade as they were three wide. Oh no! We got a car flying in! Who is that? That was one of the Haycoxes. Looks like Ian, unfortunately, the UKNI driver of the Haycoxes, lost control under braking.
Holy smokes.
And I think he actually flew over the barrier potentially there. He just disappeared on my end.
Oh, and we have another car barreling. Rob Olenek crashed his car in Indianapolis.
Oof. Already having some big troubles here. We'll get to that incident here in a second. There you see the results of what happened with Ian Haycox and Olenek. Oh, yeah. Who was that he clipped?
That was Roman Pawlowski there. A very unfortunate situation there, as Roman got bogged down by Mick Claridge, and then just wrong time, wrong position for Rob Olenek, who crashes hard into the armor barrier, and his day is done.
Wow, we had 4 cars actually wreck out there. Didn't quite catch who the others were. I know one of them managed to get going. It looks like that was Grant Petullo. We don't need to go back to it as we come back live. Just completing the first lap. Your leaders still Michel Dudignon, Mick Claridge holding on with him, but they've got a gap 3 seconds big already back to Ove Trangarade in P3.
And all of that is a little bit down to how this all played out, as Ove Trangarade with a big slide through Dunlop. Can he stay at top of his car? Yes, he can. Great save by Ove Trangarade through the Dunlop chicane.
So Ove clearly driving how he's used to, with a little bit of slide in that car. The number 7 at least has that 3rd place pretty solid, because he's got about 2.5 seconds back to Gary Teal, who is in 4th. All the cars that we had with troubles on the first lap have pretty much head into the pits. Bruno, Olenek, Wright, Haycox, and Ravioli are all getting repairs currently, as we watch Roman Pawlowski with Gary Teal, some severe damage on the front of the number 6. And I think that is going to hurt down the straightaway. Let's see if Teal starts to get that run back. Meanwhile, they're being joined by Hugh Haycox.
Yeah, we're starting to see some 3 car packs putting up here, as I'm not 100% sure if Roman's car even is still straight after that hard contact with Rob Olenek. Does seem, though, that he is still driving straight, as he gets a little bit of a wobble here over the crest, as they now go through the Unodia kink. And yeah, just as you can see, Gary Thiel just has more speed because of the nose missing from Roman's car.
That's going to make today something of a headache, I have to imagine. They'll stream through Mulsanne corner, being led by Thiel in 4th, Pawlowski 5th, and Hugh Haycox waits back there, P6. Look at this string of cars behind them, though. That is Sadro in 7th, and then he's got Rossi, Hogan, Garbin, and Urquhart in tow. Got a change for the lead potentially here. Mick Claridge finds himself up at the top now as he drafted past Michel Dudignon on the way to Indianapolis.
So far, every racing I have seen going into Indianapolis, they putting up a gentleman rule like they have in place for Adelaide Turn 9, where the car that is in front actually gets the position going into the Indianapolis kink.
Ride on board with Michel Dudignon, looking up ahead at Mick Claridge now. As they hit the Porsche curves down through bridge. Going to be single file mostly through here.
Big slide from Michel Dudignon there as we were on board with him. But is able to keep everything under control. Only lost a couple of meters there on Mick Claridge, who might have gotten a slowdown there. Let's see if he has to yield. No, does not have to. So he was barely alive through that karting chicane.
Yeah, I have to imagine that those slowdown penalties that they have set up around here in the sim could play a difference, could play a role in how this race unfolds. We've seen it happen in the past.
Oh,
Another
Ryan
lap
Garbin.
complete.
Ryan Garbin just had an incident through the Ford chicane, as did Philippe Burkhardt.
Let's take a look at the replay here. Garbin nearly getting to the back of Rossi, and then joined in sympathy by Urquhart.
Yeah, it seems like both just seem to have outbraked themselves there. Bigger consequences for Garbin than Urquhart, but both still lost quite some time there.
There's the onboard, and thankfully it looks like didn't hit the wall. Gets it going once more down through the Forest S's. Meanwhile, as we come back to that Mulsanne straight, here's our leaders once again. And it's Michel Dudignon back in front of Mick Claridge. They've now gapped train grade by 5 seconds, so they are pulling away too wide at 210 miles an hour.
Or 341 kilometers an hour if you like it in your metric systems. Now they go through the Unodia kink, as it's officially named. Dudignon nearly 2 tires into the grass there to give Claridge on the outside enough room to live. Let's see. Yeah, Claridge backs off. Smart move by him, because there is another long straight coming up just after Mulsanne corner.
Yeah, I have a feeling these two probably playing a little bit patient here today, knowing that they've got time. No reason to do anything risky until that last lap.
That battle, 4P4 in behind, though, 4 cars fighting it out. They actually went nearly 2 by 2 into the Mulsanne corner just now as they now power out. Gary Thiel leading that train, and at the very back of this train we see Roman Pawlowski.
No surprise there that Roman wound up towards the end of it. Probably going to be difficult to make up any positions as they all now break into Indianapolis. Oh! And Hugh Haycox, unfortunately, now finds himself spun around. So did Daniel Sadro, had a spin under braking into this tricky corner.
Hugh Haycox with the 360 no-scope entry into Indianapolis corner. Great save, and Daniel Sadro just a little bit of a panic break there, because he did not really know where Hugh Haycox is going to go.
Thankfully, neither of them hit anything, so a beautiful save from both parties. But unfortunately, lost them quite a bit of time. There you can see the number 11 of Haycox down in 6th now. He's a whole 2 seconds back from Roman Pawlowski. Oh, nope, make that much closer. Something must have happened to Pawlowski because, oh, Pawlowski had a save as well into the Porsche curves moments ago, it looks like. Let's see if we can pull that one up.
Yeah, that was an impressive save by Pawlowski there. Let's see. There we go.
Yeah, this is incredibly unfortunate for the number 6. Managed to eventually gather it back up, but remember, because of the damage on the nose of that Lotus, Roman really was wanting to keep hold of the draft to any car ahead, and I'd say he is firmly out of that slipstream at this point.
But nothing is over yet. Everyone still can make mistakes. We have only just started lap 4 out of 10, so we're not even halfway through this race yet.
Not halfway, but we've had a chance for a few drivers to gain positions. Why don't we take a glance at who's our big movers so far? There's 7 left to go. And from our chart, I see a few +5s. Oh, and something's happened to Hugh Haycox again. This was in Tertre Rouge.
It is actually the hump after the Forest S which caught out Hugh Haycox there. Spun himself over that through Tertre Rouge he goes.
Yeah, you're right. Started here, and he was trying to gather it together all the way down to Tertre Rouge. Oh, man, 4 or 5 times it looked like he had that one. Thankfully, did not hit anything. That's the one nice thing, even though this is the historic version, is that it does have all the modern runoff, so at least drivers have a chance to try and not hit anything as they try to catch the car, so they can keep going.
I'm actually pretty sure that that Tertre Rouge was already in this configuration in 1989, if my memory serves me right. Either way, Daniel Sandro just overtook Steve Hogan for P7. Meanwhile, Hugh Haycox, he is all the way down now in P12. Or sorry, P11 in the battle you see right now.
Yeah, that's being led by Garbin in 9th position. Sue gets a really good jump off of Mulsanne. Now Don Good under threat from Urquhart. And almost looked like a lift there from Good. Did he get a slow down, or is he just letting everybody through it?
I think he got a slow down.
It certainly has all the hallmarks of it. But so now they all break for Indianapolis. Go ahead.
He didn't cut the corner, so maybe it was just a lift from Don Good, knowing that he is a little bit of a bottleneck for these guys and does not want to risk anyone to crash because of his slower speeds into and through turns.
Starting to lose Don Good big time. One of our drivers who did at one point have 5 spots gained, but has slipped down to 12th from 10th where he was earlier. Into the Porsche curves, Hugh Haycox. Remember, he is a little bit out of position now. He has had multiple spins in the last lap. Though he's caught up to Urquhart, I'm sure he'd like to get both past him and Garbin out of karting. This is one of those spots you got to watch out for that slowdown penalty, but all of them look nice spick and span. Great run off the corner for Haycox, but can't do anything with it.
So once again, we're starting to see those little car packs, 2 or 3 cars packs throughout the field, and especially around this position right now. P9 and P6 are your dominant 3-car packs are going right now through the Dunlop curve and chicane. Let's see Philippe Urquhart going a little bit wide there, and that might have been a little bit of a cut there by Garbin. Does not get a slowdown, thankfully for him, so he continues to fight another day for his P9.
Boy, the number 11 car, though, at the tail of the train, Haycox certainly looks a little flustered at the moment. He keeps gaining under braking on the cars ahead, and then his momentum is interrupted and he can't make the overtake. He went way wide coming through Tertre Rouge there, but didn't seem to get a slowdown. Now he's finally going to be able to get by in the slipstream as Urquhart stays to the left side, and he's going to give it a little bit of a lift to let that one through.
Let's see, does he also get the second driver? Yes, he much very well do. Ryan Garbin actually lifts now to let both cars by. Philippe Urquhart in the draft of Hugh Haycox, but he is going to get out of it. So seems like Hugh Haycox is actually having an incredibly fast car here today.
And no surprise that we've got a couple of very polite drivers. Two of these three are Brits, just letting each other after you know after you. They come up to Mulsanne corner. They're thankfully going to be single file, but they are going to be led by Hugh Haycox, who was the third of these three cars when they came onto that long stretch. Now he is leading. Can he get away, or is he going to be repassed here on the way to Indianapolis? In the meantime, we'll find out later, because up in the lead, checking in, Dudignon still has Mick Claridge on the tail.
And
In
a short
second
little
place.
a short little update on Roman Pawlowski. He has actually now caught the back of Gary Thiel for that P4. So Roman Pawlowski, even though he's missing his front nose, or rather his nose, he is still mighty fast through these 31 turns.
That is impressive. That's no mean feat from the number 6. We're still on our top 2 here as they come out of karting. Claridge staying right in the tire tracks of that number 1 machine. I'm sure Michel would love a home win on the only French track we have here on iRacing at the moment. Going to be 5 to go as they cross the line. Do you think there's any opportunity for Thiel and Trangrade and Pawlowski to try and work together to run them down? Because it is a big gap between Trangrade and Thiel from 3rd to 4th. I mean, is it even worth him trying to collect them and work together?
I would say no, especially because Gary Thiel is about 3 seconds lower than Ove Trangrade per lap. Pawlowski is, however, 2 seconds faster per lap than Gary Thiel. So we might see Pawlowski overtaking Thiel and then them working together and trying to catch Trangrade ahead. But apart from that, I don't see much chances of especially Trangrade falling back and working together with them to try and catch the guys ahead. Especially also because that's an also there because Ove Trangrade is another 2 seconds off the pace of the top 2 drivers.
Big gaps here at Le Mans, unfortunately, but at least we got a nice battle for the lead between our top 2. There's Trangrade currently in 3rd. This is a familiar position for the number 7 car, as he tends to pick up the pieces from Claridge and Dudignon a lot of times. Those two now through Mulsanne, kink up towards Mulsanne corner. Claridge, though, not willing to sit behind. He pokes his nose in, then thinks better of it as they get under braking. So he'll stay in P2. They take the right-hander, get the power down once more. Back behind them, Thiel is just towing along Pawlowski, which is kind of where I would expect Roman to be just content to ride behind, is these long straights.
Yeah, that's where Gary Thiel really can help him improve his pace, but he really needs to get past down into Indianapolis, because he is quite extensively faster through that last section all the way up to Tertre Rouge again. And then Gary Thiel, let's actually see if he tries to do something into Indianapolis. No, he actually did lift there. So he is going to stay behind Gary Thiel once again. Let's see if he tries to get a run into Arnage. No, does not. So he will continue to be behind Gary Teal for another lap.
I mean, what can you do if you're Roman here at this point? Because you've got a car that's only faster in the places where it's hard to pass, and a track where you can regain the slipstream and repass someone with ease on pretty much any of these long straights like we got here up to the Porsche curves.
Well, I would go as far and say it's impossible to go past through this section.
Ooh, did Telmo have a problem?
That is
Car
a
does
very
not look
damaged car.
healthy. Looks like it happened in Indianapolis. Let's see. Oh, on the throttle, coming off the corner, and he does find the Armco, and hard.
Actually had to retire his car after that hit. Now, some cars do have your clutch kick, or sorry, your boost kick, but this car just has the no traction kick. When you start to go on the throttle too hard, it's exactly what happens here. Just loses the rear into the Armco barrier, does realize that he's not going to be able to continue this race with this damaged car, so he has to sadly park his car here today.
Yeah, this is a car that is all analog. There is no digital help in this thing. So it is all in your hands and under your right foot as to how fast you go. 4 to go as we come back to the leaders once again. Interestingly, I see a second between Dudignon and Claridge. I wonder if Mick got a slowdown on his way onto the Mulsanne. Looks like he's regaining it now, thankfully.
And to quickly finish my point about Roman Pawlowski, as said, it is pretty much impossible for him to pass through the sections where he's faster. But the thing is, if he wants to really get past, he might have to force it through there, because as soon as he gets out of the slipstream, he just hits a brick wall and he just can't get past or even get an overlap on Gary Teal.
Mick's looking once again, but just like we saw last time. Oh, no, it's not just like we saw last time. He's going to stay in it, and he's got the inside through the Mulsanne. But coming off the corner, he doesn't quite have the grunt. He'll stay out of the slipstream for the moment. Is he going to duck back in? That's the question. He's not going to duck back in. He's content. Maybe he's got slightly different gearing or something, because he's starting to gain. He backs out once they hit the braking for Indianapolis.
Yeah, Indianapolis, not a corner you want to go side by side through. You have to brake while turn, and you need every inch of that track by yourself already. And oh, Michelle, a little bit slight there, able to catch it though, and loses no momentum whatsoever. So yeah, Mick Claridge, I feel like he's running a little bit of a more slipstream car than Michelle is, but Michelle is that much faster through the chicanes that we're coming up now, Porsche curves and bridge turns and whatnot. So yeah, it is a little bit of a fight of equal powers.
So, though there's no wings that you can change on these cars, obviously the gearing can certainly affect things. So he continues to follow his old rival, Michel Dudignon, on his home course. They work their way out of Maison Blanche up to the Ford chicane. One of those spots where sometimes you could spy a pass, but not this lap. Interesting to see both of them giving the taller curbs a bit of a wide berth. Ooh, did Hogan have a problem? He's down in 11th. This was into the Porsche curves. Oh, I think he nearly got into the back of David Rossi. Did he actually make contact there? On screen, it certainly looked like it.
Yeah, that's a little bit the problem of this car. Because of the long exhaust pipes sticking out of the car, you can easily hit them. And that seems to be exactly what Steve Hogan did there. Spins himself out. Seems like no damage to either car, thankfully. But Steve Hogan loses 2-3 positions with that spin.
Continues on P11 after starting in 13th. He probably would have liked to have kept those positions that he had managed to gain. Meanwhile, we're taking a look at Hugh Haycox, who is still making his climb. David Rossi is the one in front of him currently. And that red machine you see on screen, they're being chased by Philippe Urquhart still.
Whoa, Rossi!
Oh, and he's going to spin back in front of him, gets a little bit of a tip. Haycox has to go off course. That's definitely going to be a slowdown for him. But he manages to survive for another day. Looks like we see Rossi get back going once more. Let's watch from above here on the replay. Oof, just a slight bump into the Armco. How much damage did that give him? Hugh is trying so hard to be patient here, Steph, and unfortunately it just did not work out. Look at this.
Yeah, Hugh Haycox there once again. Wrong time at wrong place at the wrong time. Thankfully, though, it seems like he did not get a slowdown from that, and also it seems like he did not sustain too much damage from that little hit on the rear of Rossi's car.
As we jump to Urquhart, who's trailing Hugh Haycox into Mulsanne corner. Brian Garbin behind them in P9. They're all going to get off nice and clean. 3 laps to go. Going to be 2 laps to go pretty soon, honestly. So we are getting down to the tail end of this race. The opening round, if you're just joining us for Season 3 of the Lotus 49 Grand Prix Legends Series, and these are our 2 leaders. It is the Frenchman leading at his home track, Michel Dudignon, Mick Claridge behind him in second place. They are very familiar with racing each other. I think we're seeing some treachery being set up. Things are going to get a lot more intense once we get to that final lap.
Yeah, and to give you a little bit of an overview where you would want to set up your passes, obviously you can do that into Mulsanne corner or into Indianapolis, but it is actually not too wise because especially after Mulsanne you have another long straight where you can get past again. Indianapolis, you get an arch and then once again a little bit off a straight afterwards into the Porsche curves. So once again, not too wise. If you really want to make it happen in the very last moment, the Ford chicane is actually a very good point on the track to make that, because you then only have the last chicane in the series, and it is a super slow chicane, the last one, but a Ford is very fast, and Mick Claridge is right now seeming to be the faster car.
We've had a problem with Philippe Urquhart. Sorry, he's in the Ford chicane, unfortunately lost it all on his own. I want to say this is the second time we've seen Urquhart lose it in the chicane.
It is
one of the
indeed.
drivers. Yeah. Very first lap, I want to say it was, that he spun it around. This puts him down in 9th, and he's now joined by Steve Hogan.
And Urquhart did show the problem of the Ford chicane there. If you try to brake a little bit later, you are gonna run into the problem of turning while braking. This car really does not like that. So Urquhart, they're trying to push it a little bit too much and pays the price immediately with spinning himself out and now being all the way down in P9.
Understatement of the century, this car not liking turning and braking at the same time. Meanwhile, Dudignon is currently our leader, ahead of Claridge for the time being. Claridge keeping him honest, not too concerned about trying to get away from him.
Oh, track right!
Oh no!
Takes a trip onto the roundabout of Mulsanne, but is able to continue it.
The watch on board. Speaking of turning and braking being tricky, it came out right from underneath him.
I'm gonna be honest there, that looked like Trangerate just falling asleep down the straight and forgetting about his braking point.
Easy to do, honestly. It sounds silly, but it is a
Oh,
long straight.
Trangerate!
Train
Whoa.
grade, those not out of the woods. Look at how much he's having to wheel the car. My goodness. Doesn't lose it this time, but just about. He's about 16 seconds behind our leaders. He is certainly no threat. But the good news for the number 7 car is he's already 20 seconds ahead of Gary Teal behind him.
Yeah, and up ahead, Mick Clutch is starting to look more and more racy on the back of Michel Dudignon through the Corvette chicane. They go. And yeah, last lap coming up now, and Mick Clutch, he is probably wanting to try everything he can possibly do to take that win away from Michel.
This is going to be his last chance to do so. We should probably stick with these two because this is where I expect things to heat up. White flag waves for Michel Dudignon and Mick Claridge. After 9 laps of racing on the 10th, Michel Dudignon starting to stretch away slightly, but not enough to try and cut off that slipstream. They hit the Dunlop chicane, and Mick Claridge sliding it into that first braking zone.
And in case you're wondering, because you're seeing those lap times right now, that is only about 10 seconds slower than what the LMP1s, especially the Toyotas, are doing here today in real life Le Mans, obviously with the chicanes added, but still, these F1 cars are a force to reckon with.
Yeah, I mean, they're slower in the corners, but considering how much of this track is straight, they seem to make up for it. They certainly fly once you get them going. Meanwhile, Dudignon has put his foot down. It is 1.1 seconds. That's still not enough for him to try and shake Claridge. We expect he should be able to regain this time, and already it is down to 0.7 of a second. Look at that difference in speed. My goodness. Claridge up to 217.
That's 12
potentially
kilometers ahead there, Mick Clutch, and now he's on the back once again. Has to obviously go out of the throttle there, because otherwise he's not going to make the Uno Dier kink. But now he goes to the inside. Does he actually try to do something through Mulsanne?
He's thinking about it. He sticks his nose in, but he stays behind. Oh, big slide from Michel Dudignon through the corner. And he gets another bite of the apple. Here comes Mick Claridge. He doesn't even need the slipstream. He just gets playing a better run along the straightaway up towards Indianapolis. He's going to be to the outside, but can he get clear by the time they hit the braking? I don't think either of these drivers is going to give way. And finally, he is fully ahead as they hit the left-hander, this heavily banked corner. Up towards Arnage, Michel Dudignon trying to set him up. What can he do? Oh, and nearly gets into the back of Claridge, Steph.
Yeah, very lucky there for both of them. That could have ended quite badly there, but Michel Dudignon able to keep it off the car. Now we come into the Porsche curves, and this should be the point where Michel Dudignon should be stronger once again, especially with how Mick Clutch takes the first turn here. A little bit wider, but Michel Dudignon not able to capitalize on that.
There's a problem with Urquhart we'll go back to in a bit. Meanwhile, through bridge, taking a wide line. Dudignon desperate at this point, looking for any way by. He wants a home victory. Through karting, he is running out of opportunities. He needs a good run up to the Ford chicane. Does he have it? It looks like he does. He's covered off as Mick Claridge goes defensive. Is this going to be enough? He starts to lose the car, and he gives it away in the final corner. Michel Dudignon is around in the final turn. It's going to be a drag race to the line, but it's just not quite enough. Michel Dudignon takes the victory from Mick Claridge. Ove Trangerate is going to take third. Well far behind, but it's still a podium.
In behind, the battle for P4 is still raging between Gary Thiel and Roman Pawlowski as they now come themselves up to the Ford chicane. What will happen for that battle here? Roman Pawlowski not able to challenge Gary Thiel on the brakes through the last turn. They go, and Gary Thiel takes away P4 ahead of Roman Pawlowski.
I think that is all the battles that we've got up to the line. So let's take a look at the replay of the run to the line between our two leaders. We're seeing that Michel Dudignon had a slowdown penalty at the very end. Is that correct?
Yes, he did cut over the second part of the Ford chicane there, as you're gonna see, trying to avoid making Claridge.
So this is from onboard Claridge, and I guess the slowdown was the first apex there. And that's how Claridge managed to stay so close with him. Now, the good news for Dudignon fans is it looks like he did clear that penalty in time. So he is allowed to keep the win. If he had not cleared that penalty, he would have been black flagged and the win would have gone to Mick Claridge. Let's watch from Michel's view. Oh, no, maybe it was the first half of the chicane there instead where he got the slowdown. What a topsy-turvy finish to the first round of the season. So I believe that is going to be it for the moment. We're not done with the broadcast. We're going to come back with the official results as well as driver interviews. But on screen, you're going to see all the upcoming races here on the GSRC. Welcome back to Le Mans. Well, everybody else is probably watching sports cars around here. We got to watch Formula One cars race without the chicanes on the Mulsanne stretch. And in the end, it was a Frenchman, appropriately, who won at his home track. Michel Dudignon just barely squeaked through in the final corner when Mick Claridge made a mistake. And Michel, despite getting a slowdown penalty, managed to hold on by 0.2 of a second over Claridge, who finished second place. Ove Trangrate, 18 seconds behind, just did not have pace for them today, but he still gets third place. Gary Thiel wound up ahead of Roman Pawlowski by about half a second. Roman's damage meant it was just way too hard to try and get ahead, and settles for fifth place. Daniel Sadro finishes sixth. And how about Ryan Garman? Qualified 14th, finishes seventh. Steve Hogan, eighth behind him. And then Hugh Haycox, with multiple spins, winds up ninth. David Rossi rounds out your top 10.
And I'm already sorry for what I'm gonna say, but Don Good has done good. From 15th to 11th, he takes his number 22 car. Same with Grant Patula from 16th up to 12th. Dave Cohen, another driver with a very good result to his name, starting in 23rd, not putting in a qualifying lap. He finishes in 13th place. Colin Coker up 4 spots from 18th up to 14th, still finishing on the lead lap. Johnny Bell finished in 15th. Andres Bruno, he did finish the race in 16th, is also the last car on the lead lap. Philippe Urquhart, he is your first car that did not finish, down in 17th. Telmo Amaral in 18th, he also did not finish. Same with Robert Reynolds. Rob Olenek, the car in 20th, he did actually go out again and finish the race, but he did finish this race 7 laps.
21st went to Jasmine Beach, and Ian Haycox 22nd. Billy Bob Wright DNF to 23rd. Same thing with Marco Ravioli, who finished 24th. And there's no reason to apologize for a Don Good pun there, Stefan. So let's talk to some of our finishers here today. Second place, Mick Claridge, coming home in second. Just missed out on the victory. Mick, talk to us a little bit about those last few corners, because there's certainly a lot to unravel there.
Oh, hey, Joe. Yeah, that was so annoying. I knew I'd gone in there too hot in the last chicane, but yeah, my plan was to get him after the Mulsanne corner, because my car was super quick off those slow corners. I really worked on that this week to get the car off the slow stuff, and yes, I knew there was a good chance I'd get in front of him by the end of that straight. And and then it's all out war in it with me and him. So yeah, same as always.
Obviously, with it being just you two very early on, what were you doing mentally as the race progressed? Were you kind of scoping out how Michel was driving in certain areas, or were you just basically cruising and not thinking about anything but just waiting?
Well, first of all, we obviously got the gap, and then I just thought, shall I slow down and bring some of the others in, because it might be not for the TV element, but it's more strategy, if you can get some of the guys that aren't normally up there, fighting Michel, anything to throw a spanner in the works, because he's so quick. I mean, I just kept up with him because of the toe, really. You could see how quick he was in the first few corners up to the straight. He's normally an animal through there, and if there was a less of a toe, he'd be gone, But yeah, it's just playing games with him, trying to mess up his mind a bit, And I was braking late into Mulsanne corner a couple of times just to say that I might be braking late in there. So, and I even out dragged him down the straight after that, and I thought, maybe show him that. But yeah, it's total mind games, until the last lap. It's good fun.
It gave us some good fun, especially there on that last lap. Next week is going to be Laguna Seca. Do you think he'll come back and race again, or will we hear rumors of you potentially joining us in the booth?
I'll tell you what, Joe, it all depends on the weather, because honestly, I've got to get this car done. And if the weather's crap like it is today, then I'll be racing. But yeah, if the weather's if it's a nice day, then I'll be in the booth with you, hopefully.
All right. Well, we'll look forward to it either way. Congratulations on second place today, sir.
Yeah, cheers, guys.
That was Mick Claridge, second place. Fourth place went to Gary Thiel, and Steph is caught up with him.
Yeah, and Gary did defend off Roman Pawlowski there quite heavily for the last 4 or so laps. Gary, how did it feel to you defending off Roman?
It was a bit stressful. Can you hear me?
Can do indeed.
Oh, good. Yeah, I saw that he was damaged, but somehow I was just looking at the replays myself. I got a little bit of damage that you couldn't see on the car, but it was limiting me to about 208 miles an hour down the stretch, whereas you're normally at 210, 211. So there's some unseen damage there. So when I first saw Angelica got the damage, I thought I'll run away from him on the straights, but my top speed is down too. So it looked like he waited to the last lap there to make his move, and I just had to defend it. He was probably a couple of seconds faster a lap than me if he hadn't been damaged.
Yeah, and defended well. You did that attack by Roman. Now, Le Mans, we know it is a rather interesting and unique track with a long stretch. How is your preparation going into a race like this?
Well, usually I try to grab one of Mick's setups. I think he shared one with me, and I modify that a bit, and I'll just do my runs in default weather for a while and try a few, usually just PSI changes and whatnot. But whatever I'm doing, it's about 2 seconds a lap slower than the top 6 guys.
That is about the story of this series. It's a very hard work to get up to the top guys. Now, a very hard job to go up to the top is also in Laguna Seca. How are you looking forward to round 2?
I'm looking forward to that one a little bit more, but I think, let me think, I might be out of town for that one. Yeah, I think I'm going to Las Vegas, so I'm probably going to miss the Saturday race.
Well, you have some fun in Las Vegas then, Gary, if you're not here with us for round 2. Okay, Gary, thank you very much for talking to us.
All right, cheers, guys.
That was Gary Teo, 4th place today here at Le Mans. And that's going to wrap up our interviews. So we want to give a big thank you to the Lotus 49 community for bringing us back for another season of coverage, but also a thanks to iRacing for putting us on the iRacing Esports Network. Make sure and subscribe when you get the opportunity. All you got to do is go to their YouTube page, click subscribe, and you'll get all of the Grand Prix Legends series in your YouTube feed. Thanks to the companies that provide the software and hardware for our broadcast listed here on your screen. And additional thanks goes to June Lalonde, who provides our wonderful music. See the screen for how to get a hold of more of her great work. Thanks to the team today, Stefan Amjad and Dougie. If you'd like to find out more about GSRC, including upcoming races, you can find it at globalsimracingchannel.com. We're also on social media, where you can find us on Twitter at GSR Channel, Facebook at Global Sim Racing Channel, and Instagram at GSRC_Graham. As we mentioned, we're heading over to California for the next round. That'll be Laguna Seca, Saturday, June 22nd at 9:30 a.m. Eastern. We also have upcoming races for other series listed on the screen, so check those out and mark them down on your calendar. But until next time, race clean, race hard. We'll see you on the track.